God talks about the types of soil that are planted into the seed of God. Matthew 13:3. Behold, a sower of God's seed went out to sow, to plant a seed in a dirt. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured the seeds. I'm pretty sure the birds were hungry. But then some seed fell on stony places where they did not have much earth. And the seeds immediately sprung up because they had no depth of earth. So there's no depth in the soil or no built-up flower beds. The reason is the more fertile the soil and the larger the roots can get and expands and flourish abundantly because they have more space to spread out and more in their bigger, larger roots. And so they're rooted more strongly in deeper soil. But when the sun comes up, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away because the soil was shallow and the roots were not deep. The seed of God was burnt up. And then some of the seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns represent the agents of Satan. And the thorns sprang up and choked them. Honestly, these thorns that want to choke God's seed, these are the crazy people. Honestly, my narcissist literally tried to choke me in 2012. But literally, when I deal with these thorns in my life right now, in my current reality, I literally want to break 4 of the 10 commandments because these thorns are absolutely crazy. And these thorns try to choke out God's seed from our lives and our destinies and our mantles. Okay, but the other seeds of God fell on good ground and yielded a crop. Some of the crop was 100-fold, some were 60-fold, and some were 30-fold. Now, there's significance in those numbers. I really don't know what they are yet, but God doesn't talk in the Bible to hear himself talk. So depending on what kind of ground you are either your fruit's going to be 100-fold, 60-fold, or 30-fold of what you plant in it. He says, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. This is important because God is speaking to us in the Bible. So those of us literally that have ears to hear are hearing this word as I speak in the present. God's calling in his kingdom is not a spectator sport. So you can't be on the sidelines watching other people do God's work. You have to become an active participant as a player in his kingdom. You have to be an active player in God's garden in his kingdom. You have to have good ground. You have to have flower beds that are built up 6 to 10 inches with fertile soil. And then you have to water the plants. And then you have to fertilize the plants. And the more that you fertilize and water, and the more that you prep the good ground with fertile soil, then when you put your seed in, which is God, literally God's seed. I hate when they call this a parable in Matthew because it sounds like it's a fictional story. You have to understand, when God puts a seed in you, that seed is going to flourish 100-fold, 60-fold, and some 30-fold. So let's just say the seed is the power of destroying injustice in the world. Then God is going to give us a seed to be able to take care of that and flourish in his power 100-fold. But we have to have good ground. I guess all we can do for those of us that are representing God's kingdom and doing God's will on earth as it is in heaven, is plant God's seed in a person, which is usually the spirit of truth, mixed in with the word of God. And they either have to have one of these 4 grounds. The seed that you give them is either going to take hold and is going to root because they have fertile soil and they have a deep soil bed and their soil is fertile, and the seed hasn't been eaten away by the birds and the other mean thorns that send you nasty emails in all capitals. So when the thorns come at you and the mean people come at you and they say that you're crazy, a crazy Christian, and you can't possibly know what you're talking about, and God can't possibly use you because, I don't know, maybe because you're a woman, maybe that's why. Just remember, we have to continue to water our flowers and our fruit And that's the living word of God, because that gives life, and it gives life abundantly. Then we have to add fertilizer. At least I do, because I'm not really patient, and I like things to expand quickly. And right now I feel like I'm running out of time. I feel like the seed of God that's in me is telling me I'm running out of time. So what little time I do have, I have to use my time absolutely wisely. And so one of the seeds I do have now is the seed of discernment that I've never quite had before like I do now. So if I'm getting the idea that the seed of the person I'm with is a thorn, then I can't waste my time trying to convert a Satanist who does not want to be converted. And unfortunately, I have empathy. I want to help people. I want everyone to come to God. If the person has a good heart, if they have a good heart disposition, then the seed that you plant, it will land in fertile soil, and it will produce fruit. It will yield a crop of flourishing flowers. But you have to understand that if you're giving a seed to someone that actually is a thorn, or that is in rocky soil, or whose seed of God got stolen away by a hungry bird, because narcissists come in to take the life energy that you give them, and then that person, the seed of God never gets rooted. They never flourish in the will of God for their lives and their destiny and their mantle. So this is the discernment that you have to have in these days. As we interact with these people in the world, you call them, thorns, or we call them tares, or they're not good crops. All you can do is plant a seed, and you've got one of 4 opportunities that a person that you're interacting with is either going to accept the seed, and it's going to root and take root and stay rooted and flourish, and you literally have an everlasting Garden of Eden, or you will not. And it's difficult, but you have to accept that there's people out there that don't want to do God's will, and they're not going to do it, no matter what you say to them. You cannot convert a Satanist. You cannot do it. The only one that can do that is to change their heart condition, and that's God.